Welcome to the Exploratory. Let's talk about Postman Mock Servers. What is a mock? Mocks are used throughout various parts of the API development lifecycle, but one of the most commonly used times to use a mock is during the earliest design part of the lifecycle. So if your team is set up like front-end engineer and back-end engineer, or tester and developer, or maybe you have microservices engineers focused on different domains, you can actually use mock servers at the earliest design part of the API development lifecycle. So say you want to start development on an application, but the endpoints aren't done yet. Instead of waiting for a full-fledged API to be designed, developed, and then deployed, you can spin up a mock server on Postman to simulate a server response. So the mock becomes an agreement about what the API will eventually be, and developers and testers or front-end engineer and platform engineer can start working in parallel, working against the expected response of that API. And then when the API is ready to be deployed, you swap out the mock URL with the actual URL. Let's set up a mock server in Postman. If you already have a collection, you can go ahead and add a mock to the collection by going to the overflow menu and selecting mock collection, if you already have examples describing what you'd like to see back from the server. In this video, we'll start from scratch and create a brand new mock server. Go to the New button, select Mock Server, and there's two things that you're going to need to set this up. The first thing is a unique request path. So go ahead and put in something like fruits. And the second thing you're going to need is an example response body, something that you'd expect to see back from the server. So let's just put in some text here, lemon, and call our mock server mocking with fruits. And I'm not using an environment yet, but I'm going to leave this checkbox checked. Save the mock server base URL as an environment variable. And the default setting for mock servers is that they're accessible publicly. So if I send you my endpoints, you'll be able to hit them and see those responses from home. If there's sensitive information in those examples, or I don't want just anybody to access that information, I can click Make Mock Server Private and then require an API key to access the mock API. I'm going to leave that unchecked. And there's one more option here to simulate a fixed network delay, if I want to recreate some of those edge cases. I'm going to leave both of those last two options unchecked and click Create Mock Server. All right, so Postman has created this mock server URL that can be accessed if I add my request path /fruits after it. Couple other things happened. Postman created a collection called Mocking with Fruits that contains a single GET request going to that path I articulated during setup. If I hover over the URL, I can see it's unresolved. And that's because Postman has also created an environment for me, Mocking with Fruits, that is storing that base URL for me. So I've selected that environment, and now if I hover over URL, you can see that Postman is reading in that value from the actively selected environment. So let's hit our /fruits endpoint. Yay, lemon. Okay, so this is the mock response coming back from Postman Cloud. If I want to add more fruits, I can do that by editing my example. So the example shows under EG beneath my request. I can select that. And previously we had plain text. Let's go ahead and change it to a JSON response. Maybe it's going to be an array of lemon, cherry, and berry. And I'll leave the status code 200 now for this GET request. That's fine by me. Let me add one more thing. So under headers, I'm going to add a response type, content type, application JSON. So I have a response header and I have a response body. I can make any other updates to my request or my response here on this example, but it looks pretty good to me. So I'm going to hit save. And now when I go back to my request, going to /fruits, previously we hit that endpoint and we got back lemon. Now when we hit send, we see lemon, cherry, and berry. So at this point, I can continue editing my example by going under the EG. I can also add more examples. I can duplicate it and create different scenarios. Maybe there's an unsuccessful response. Maybe you're requiring the request to submit this type of parameter. Maybe I want to create different HTTP methods. So as I continue building out my examples here, I can enable development in parallel. So this is the example we talked about earlier. So these examples are kind of like business requirements for your API engineer to understand what is expected from all parties to start building towards. And the front-end engineer can also start building out their user interface based on these mock endpoints. And at a certain point, the API engineer is going to build and deploy an actual API. And at that point, you can swap out your mock URL with your deployed URL. One more thing I want to show you is underneath mock servers here on the left, let's select the mock we just created, mocking with fruits. Here is a log of all the calls that were made against our mock server. So I've only hit send twice, and you can see if anything goes wrong or there's something a little fishy, you can dig down into some request and response information behind those call logs. We talked about using mocks to design your API and prototype a new service, but you can also use mocks during testing and debugging to simulate scenarios that are hard to recreate in production, like 429 too many requests. You can also isolate a system under test by mocking out your dependencies, like during consumer-driven contract tests. And that's it. Spin up a mock server or try out the example in the description below and let us know how you're using Postman mocks.